The text came in at 2:47 p.m. on a Wednesday. I'm a free woman. Stop tracking my every move. This controlling behavior needs to stop now. I stared at the screen for a moment, then set my phone down and leaned back in my chair. 8 months. We'd been married for 8 months, and apparently, my wife had decided she was free. The tracking she was referring to was a family location app we'd both agreed to use after she started her new job downtown. Nothing sinister, just practical. If her car broke down, if there was an emergency, we could find each other. She'd suggested it herself back in March. But lately, that app had been telling an interesting story. Tuesday night, when she said she was working late, the app showed her at Crimson Lounge until 1 a.m. Last Thursday, when she claimed her boss was keeping everyone for a mandatory meeting, she was actually at some upscale restaurant across town for 3 hours. I picked up my phone and scrolled through our joint credit card statements. $800 at that same lounge on Tuesday. Not just drinks, either. The itemized receipt showed bottle service for 6 people. When I'd asked her about the charge, she'd gotten defensive and said she was networking with colleagues. Colleagues who apparently needed premium vodka to discuss quarterly projections. The pattern had been building for weeks. Mystery charges at restaurants I'd never heard of. Expensive cocktail bars. Even a $200 charge at some boutique spa that she'd dismissed as stress relief from work pressure. My phone buzzed again. I'm serious. Remove that app or I will. I typed back. If you want to be free, you're free to find somewhere else to live. The response came back immediately. Are you kidding me right now? Over a stupid app. I wasn't kidding. I'd been watching our savings account drain while she played whatever game this was. $3,000 in unnecessary expenses over the past 6 weeks. That was more than my monthly take-home pay, blown on late-night adventures she apparently needed to keep secret. Another text. You're being completely ridiculous. This is controlling behavior, and I won't tolerate it. I actually laughed out loud at that one. She wouldn't tolerate it? I was the one tolerating mysterious charges, lies about working late, and now demands that I stop caring where my wife of 8 months spent her evenings. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and headed home early. If she wanted freedom so badly, I was going to help her achieve it. The house felt different when I walked in. Maybe it was knowing what I was about to do, or maybe it was finally seeing clearly after weeks of making excuses for her behavior. I went straight to the garage and pulled down 3 large boxes from the storage shelves. Starting with her closet seemed logical. Designer dresses with tags still attached. Shoes that cost more than most people's rent. All purchased in the last 2 months, all on our joint account. I folded everything carefully, methodically. This wasn't about anger. This was about consequences. Her jewelry box was next. The expensive earrings she'd bought herself as a reward for closing that big deal. Except when I called her office to congratulate her, they told me she hadn't closed any deals recently. Another lie in an increasingly long list. I was filling the second box when I found something that made me pause. Tucked under a stack of designer sweaters was a collection of receipts she'd hidden from me. Dinner for 4 at Morton Steakhouse, $340. Bottle service again at that lounge, $650. And then something that made my blood run cold. A money transfer receipt. She'd sent $800 to someone named Brandon through one of those payment apps. The memo line read, "For rent, you're welcome." So the free woman was using our money to pay another man's rent. I took a picture of that receipt and continued packing. Her makeup collection went into box 3. The expensive skincare products, the designer handbags, the collection of wine bottles she'd been accumulating. All of it carefully packed and loaded into my car. It was 4:23 p.m. when I finished loading the second trip. I took a photo of the boxes in my car and sent it to her with a simple message, "Helping you with your freedom." 12 minutes. That's how long it took for my phone to explode. First came the call. I let it go to voicemail. Then the texts started flooding in. "What the hell are you doing? This is insane. Stop whatever you're doing right now. You can't just move my stuff. That's illegal. I'm calling the police. Answer your damn phone." I silenced my phone and continued with box 4. Her freedom was going to be more complete than she'd planned. By 6 p.m., I had rented a storage unit across town and moved 6 boxes of her belongings. My phone had received 43 missed calls and countless text messages that ranged from fury to panic to threats of legal action. I kept it on silent and focused on the task at hand. Going through someone's possessions reveals a lot about their priorities. The designer clothes still had tags on them. Expensive perfumes barely used. A collection of wine bottles that cost more per bottle than most people spend on groceries in a week. All purchased while she was supposedly stressed about money and asking me to pick up extra shifts. But it was her desk drawer that provided the real revelations. Hidden behind old warranty papers and random cables, I found a folder she'd clearly been keeping from me. Bank statements from her personal account showing regular transfers to that same Brandon. Not just the $800 I'd already seen. This had been going on for 2 months. 600 here, 400 there, another 800 last week. I sat down and calculated the total. In 8 weeks, she'd transferred $4,200 of our money to this guy. Money that came from our joint account, moved to her personal account, then straight to Brandon. There were also printed screenshots of text conversations. I probably shouldn't have read them, but when someone is spending your mortgage payment on another man, privacy becomes a secondary concern. Thank you so much, babe. You're literally saving my life. You're the only person who actually cares about me. Can't wait to see you tonight at the usual place. The timestamps showed these conversations happening while she was supposedly at work late. The same nights I was eating leftover pizza alone, wondering why my wife of 8 months was suddenly so dedicated to her career. My phone buzzed with yet another call. This time I answered. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she screamed before I could even say hello. "Helping you be free," I replied calmly. "Isn't that what you wanted? This is insane. You can't just pack up my stuff because of some stupid argument about an app." Actually, I can. And it's not about the app anymore. It's about the $4,000 you've been secretly giving to Brandon. The line went silent. I could hear traffic in the background, which meant she was probably rushing home from wherever she actually spent her days. "I don't know what you're talking about," she finally said, but her voice had lost all its earlier confidence. "Brandon, the guy whose rent you've been paying with our money. The one you text at midnight calling babe. Ring any bells? You went through my private things? I went through the financial records of money you stole from our joint account. There's a difference. I didn't steal anything. That money was mine too. Money you earned working all those late nights? The same late nights you were actually at Crimson Lounge buying bottle service for your new friends." Another long silence. I could hear her breathing getting heavier. "You're being completely unreasonable. Brandon is just a friend who's going through a rough patch. I was helping someone in need. By lying to your husband about where you spend your evenings and secretly funding another man's lifestyle? It's not like that. Then explain what it is like. Explain why you're paying rent for a 26-year-old unemployed guy while telling me we need to cut back on expenses. How do you know his age? I know a lot of things. Like the fact that you've been posting photos on Instagram acting like you're single. Like the fact that your work meetings happen at bars that don't even serve food. Like the fact that you asked me to cancel our Netflix subscription to save money while spending $600 on drinks for strangers. I heard a car door slam in the background. I'm almost home. We're going to sit down and discuss this like adults. There's nothing to discuss. You made your choice when you decided our marriage was worth less than impressing some kid who can't pay his own bills. Stop being so dramatic. I'm trying to help a friend. Friends don't usually require rent money and midnight texts calling them babe. But hey, you wanted freedom. You're about to get more than you bargained for. I hung up and continued loading the last box into my car. Box 7 contained the wine collection, her laptop, and the expensive coffee machine she'd insisted we needed but never used. When I pulled into the storage facility for the 3rd time, my phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Brandon?" I answered. No man. This is Jake. Your wife asked me to call you." "And who are you, Jake?" "I'm just trying to help mediate this situation. She's really upset and says you're overreacting." "Tell me, Jake, are you one of the friends enjoying bottle service on our dime?" "Look, I don't know anything about money stuff. I just know she's crying and says you're throwing away her belongings." "I'm not throwing them away. I'm putting them in storage so she can collect them when she finds her new place. Since she's a free woman and all." "Dude, that's pretty harsh over some stupid fight." "It's not a fight. It's a lesson in consequences. Adults who want to play house with other people's money don't get to keep the house." I hung up and finished unloading the last box. 7 boxes total. Amazing how someone could accumulate so much stuff in 8 months while spending someone else's money to support another man's lifestyle. My phone showed I had 61 unread messages. I deleted them all without reading them and headed home to wait. She burst through the front door at 7:15 p.m. like a hurricane, her heels clicking frantically across the hardwood floor. Her face was flushed, her hair disheveled, and her eyes wide with panic as she took in the obvious gaps where her belongings used to be. "Where is everything?" she demanded, spinning around to face me. I was sitting calmly at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and her folder of hidden receipts spread out in front of me. "Storage unit. Safe and sound. You had no right. Actually, I had every right. This is my house, and you're free to leave anytime you want. Remember? Free woman." She stared at the receipts on the table, her face going pale. "You went through my private papers. I went through the evidence of where our money has been disappearing to, for $1,200 to be exact. All transferred to your boyfriend Brandon. He's not my boyfriend, right? He's just some random guy you send money to and call babe in text messages. Totally normal marriage behavior." She sat down across from me, trying to compose herself. "You're taking this completely out of context. Brandon is going through a difficult time. His landlord was threatening eviction. And that became your problem. How exactly?" "Because I have compassion. Because I care about people who are struggling." I laughed and picked up one of the receipts. "Is that why you also paid for his friends to drink $700 bottles of champagne?" "Out of compassion. Those weren't for him specifically. No, they were for the group of unemployed 20-somethings you've been financing while lying to me about working late." She tried a different approach, her voice softening. "Look, I know how this looks, but you're misunderstanding the situation. These people are my friends. They make me feel appreciated. They make you feel appreciated because you're paying for everything. The moment you stop funding their lifestyle, watch how quickly that appreciation disappears." "That's not true. When was the last time any of these friends paid for anything? When was the last time Brandon took you out instead of the other way around?" She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. "Exactly. You're not their friend. You're their ATM. And apparently, I'm the one funding the account. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference." I stood up and walked to the kitchen counter, where I'd placed her laptop bag. "Speaking of honesty, want to explain why you told your Instagram followers you were living your best single life last weekend?" Her face went white. "You looked at my social media?" "I looked at the public posts of someone who's been lying to me for months. The photos from Crimson Lounge where you're draped all over Brandon while I was home thinking you were working overtime. Those photos don't mean anything. They mean you're embarrassed to be married. They mean you're pretending to be available while using my money to impress other men." She started crying, but they felt like calculated tears. "You're twisting everything. I never meant for any of this to hurt you. But you did mean to lie about where you were every night. You did mean to secretly transfer thousands of dollars to another man. You did mean to live like you're single while expecting me to play the role of the devoted husband who pays for everything. It's not like that. Then explain what it's like. Explain why you need to pay rent for a man who sends you good morning texts. Explain why you told your friends you were unhappy in your marriage while telling me everything was fine." She looked genuinely shocked. "I never said I was unhappy in our marriage." I pulled out my phone and opened a screenshot I'd taken from her Instagram story. Quote, "Sometimes you have to create your own happiness when nobody else understands you." Posted the same night you spent $800 of our dollars at that lounge. That was just a general post. Followed by Brandon commenting, "You deserve so much better," with a heart emoji. Very general. She buried her face in her hands. "You're making this sound worse than it is." Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, my wife of 8 months has been living a double life, financing another man's existence, and publicly acting like she's single. If there's a way to make that sound better, I'm all ears. Brandon is just someone who appreciates me. He listens to me when I talk. He listens because you're paying his bills. Remove the money from the equation and see how much he appreciates your conversations. You don't understand what it's like to feel trapped. Trapped? You've spent more money on entertainment in 2 months than most people spend in a year. You've been living like you're single while having the financial security of marriage. How exactly are you trapped? She looked up at me with mascara running down her cheeks. You're so focused on money. This isn't about money. You're right. It's about respect. It's about honesty. It's about the fact that you've been lying to me every single day while bleeding our savings account dry to fund your fantasy life. I can fix this. I can make this right. By doing what? Continuing to lie? Continuing to send money to Brandon? continuing to act single while expecting me to pay for your lifestyle. I'll stop talking to him. I'll be more transparent about where I go. You'll stop talking to the guy you've been financially supporting for 2 months? The guy you call babe in text messages? How generous of you. She stood up abruptly. This is impossible. You've already made up your mind. You made up my mind when you chose to fund another man's life with our money. Actions have consequences. You wanted freedom? Congratulations. You're about to get all the freedom you can handle. Where am I supposed to go? That's the beautiful thing about being a free woman. You get to figure that out yourself. She spent the next hour frantically calling people, trying to find somewhere to stay. I could hear her conversations from the living room as I organized the paperwork I'd need for what came next. Mom, I need to stay with you for a few days. No, it's not what you think. He's being completely unreasonable about some money issues. Jessica, can I crash at your place tonight? My husband is having some kind of breakdown. Brandon? Hey, I really need to talk to you. Can you call me back? It's urgent. That last call never got returned. Neither did the second one to Brandon. Or the third. By 9 p.m., she came back to the kitchen looking defeated. My mom can let me stay for 3 nights. That's it. That should give you plenty of time to figure out your next move. This is insane. We're married. Married couples work through problems. They don't just kick each other out over money disagreements. Money disagreements? I set down my coffee cup. Is that what we're calling secretly funding another man's lifestyle while lying about it for months? I was helping someone in need. You were playing house with someone else while I paid the bills. There's a difference. She pulled out her phone again. I'm going to prove to you that you're wrong about Brandon. That this isn't what you think it is. She dialed his number and put it on speaker. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. He's probably working, she said weakly. At 9 p.m.? Doing what? You told me he was unemployed. He does some freelance stuff in the evenings. Right. And this freelance stuff pays well enough that he can afford to ignore the person who's been covering his rent. She tried calling again. This time, someone answered, but it wasn't Brandon. Yeah, came a young male voice. Is Brandon there? This is urgent. Who's this? This is his friend. I really need to talk to him. Oh, you're the married chick who's been buying drinks all the time. Yeah, he's not available right now. I watched her face crumble as the reality hit her. When will he be available? Look, lady, no offense, but he's kind of over the whole situation. Things got weird when you started getting all attached and stuff. She hung up quickly, her hands shaking. Well, I said calmly, that was enlightening. You don't understand. He's probably just overwhelmed by everything that's happening. He's overwhelmed by his sugar mama having husband problems. It's interfering with the gravy train. Stop calling me that. What would you prefer? Financial supporter? Benefactor? The woman who pays his bills while he treats her like a convenience. She slumped in her chair. You're being cruel. I'm being accurate. The moment your money tap got turned off, your friend became unavailable. Exactly like I predicted. Her phone rang. For a moment, hope flashed across her face, but the caller ID showed her friend Jessica. Hey Jess, what do you mean you can't help? I thought we were friends. You talked to who? I could hear Jessica's voice through the phone, though not clearly enough to make out words. Whatever she was saying was making my wife increasingly agitated. That's not how it happened. He's taking everything out of context. More talking from Jessica. Fine. I don't need your help anyway. She hung up and glared at me. You call my friends? I didn't call anyone. But apparently word travels fast when someone's been secretly funding their boyfriend with their husband's money. I didn't tell them about the money. You didn't have to. Jessica probably did the math when she saw your Instagram posts from expensive bars every night while you claimed we were broke. We never claimed we were broke. You asked me to cancel our streaming services to save money while spending $600 on bottle service. What would you call that? She stood up and started pacing. This is all getting blown completely out of proportion. $4,000 isn't pocket change. That's rent money. That's car payments. That's our emergency fund that you spent on your midlife crisis. I'm 27. It's not a midlife crisis. You're right. It's just regular immaturity combined with a complete lack of respect for your marriage. I never disrespected our marriage. You funded another man's lifestyle, lied about your whereabouts, posted about being single, and accepted romantic attention from someone you were financially supporting. If that's not disrespecting our marriage, what would be? She sat back down, deflated. I can fix this. We can go to counseling. I can pay back the money. With what money? You're unemployed, remember? All those late nights at work were actually late nights spending money we didn't have. I do work. I've been taking some personal time. Personal time that you forgot to mention to me. Personal time that coincidentally started when you met Brandon. It's not about Brandon. Everything about this situation is about Brandon. You restructured your entire life around impressing him and his friends. You lied to me so you could play benefactor to a group of kids who saw you coming from a mile away. They're not kids, and they didn't see me coming. Brandon's 26 and unemployed. His friends are probably the same. You're a married woman with access to credit cards, and you were desperate to feel young and appreciated. They absolutely saw you coming. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her phone. What if you're wrong? What if he really does care about me? Then he'll figure out a way to contact you without your money. He'll want to make sure you're okay during this difficult time. He'll offer to help you through this crisis. And if he doesn't, then you'll know exactly what I've been trying to tell you. She looked at me with something that might have been the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her all evening. How did everything get so messed up? You made choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. The next morning, I found her sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open and her phone beside her, both silent. She looked like she hadn't slept much. Any luck reaching your friend Brandon? I asked, pouring myself coffee. She didn't answer immediately. He's probably just dealing with his own problems right now. Right? Problems like finding someone else to pay his rent. You don't know that. I know he hasn't returned any of your calls since yesterday. I know none of his friends are taking your calls either. And I know you've been sitting here for 12 hours waiting for people who were only interested in your wallet. She closed her laptop with more force than necessary. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I'm not enjoying watching someone I married make terrible decisions. But I'm definitely not going to pretend those decisions didn't happen. So what now? You just throw away 8 months of marriage because I made some mistakes. You spent 2 months lying to me and $4,000 funding another man's life. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Multiple choices, actually. Her phone buzzed with a text. For a moment, her face lit up with hope, but then she read it and her expression fell. Let me guess. Not Brandon. My mom. She wants to know when I'm coming to pick up my stuff because she has plans this weekend. Sounds like you're running out of options. Why are you being so cold about this? We're supposed to be partners. Partners don't secretly fund other people's lifestyles. Partners don't lie about where they spend their evenings. Partners don't post about being single while expecting their spouse to pay the bills. She stood up abruptly. Fine. You want me to admit it? I felt unappreciated. I felt taken for granted. Brandon and his friends made me feel special. There it is. The truth finally comes out. Yes, they appreciated me. They were grateful when I helped them. They made me feel like I mattered. And how much did that feeling cost me? It wasn't about the money. Everything was about the money. They didn't appreciate you. They appreciated your credit card. They weren't grateful for your help. They were grateful for free rent and bottle service. You don't know them like I do. I know them well enough. When was the last time any of them asked how you were doing? When was the last time they offered to pay for anything? When was the last time they included you in something that didn't require you opening your wallet? She was quiet for a moment, and I could see her trying to think of an example. That's what I thought. I continued. You bought their attention, and the moment you couldn't pay anymore, they disappeared. Maybe they're just giving me space to work through my marriage problems. Or maybe they found someone else with a credit card. Her phone rang. This time it was Jessica calling back. Jess, thank God. I really need to talk to someone. What do you mean you heard the whole story? From who? I could hear Jessica's voice getting louder, though I couldn't make out the words. That's not what happened. He's twisting everything. No, I wasn't having an affair. It was just friends helping friends. More animated talking from Jessica. How is helping someone with rent the same as cheating? You're being just as unreasonable as he is. The call ended abruptly. Apparently Jessica had hung up on her. Let me guess. Jessica thinks funding Brandon's lifestyle while lying to your husband crosses some lines. Everyone's being so dramatic. I was just helping people. You were playing house with another man while I paid for it. How did you think people were going to react? I thought my friends would support me. Your real friends are supporting you. They're telling you the truth instead of enabling your bad decisions. She picked up her phone again, scrolling through her contacts. There has to be someone who understands. Understands what? That you wanted to feel young and special, so you spent our savings on strangers who were using you. They weren't using me. Then where are they now? If they really cared about you, wouldn't at least one of them be checking to make sure you're okay? Wouldn't Brandon be concerned that his financial supporter is going through a crisis? She dialed another number. I listened to her leave a voicemail for someone named Tyler. Tyler, it's me. I know this is weird, but I really need someone to talk to. Can you call me back? I'm going through something and could use a friend. She hung up and looked at me defiantly. Tyler will call back. He's different from the others. Tyler's one of Brandon's friends, isn't he? So what if he is? So he knows the gravy train is over. They probably had a group chat laughing about the married woman who was paying for everything. That's a horrible thing to say. It's a realistic thing to say. You were the entertainment, not the friend. You were the story they told other people about the naive married woman who thought she was buying friendship. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Sorry, can't really get involved in drama right now. Hope things work out. I watched her read it twice before setting her phone down. Maybe he's just busy, she said quietly. Maybe he is. Or maybe he got the memo that the free drinks are over. She was quiet for a long time, staring at her silent phone. What if you're right? What if they were just using me? Then you learned an expensive lesson about the difference between friendship and financial convenience. But that would mean I destroyed our marriage for nothing. You destroyed our marriage for the feeling of being appreciated by people who didn't actually appreciate you. Whether that's nothing depends on how you value honesty and respect. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Can we fix this? I don't know. Can you? 3 days later, she was loading her remaining belongings into her car. Her mother had made it clear that the extended stay wasn't an option, and none of her other friends had volunteered to help. Brandon never called back. Neither did any of his friends. I can get an apartment, she said, trying to sound confident as she closed her trunk. I can start over. Good luck with that. You'll need first month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit. That's usually around $3,000 minimum. Her face went pale. I have some savings. Not anymore, you don't. Remember? You spent it on bottle service and rent payments for unemployed 26-year-olds. I can get a loan. With what collateral? What job? You've been taking personal time for 2 months, remember? She stood by her car for a moment, the reality of her situation finally sinking in. This is really happening, isn't it? You wanted freedom. This is what freedom looks like when you're responsible for your own choices. I made mistakes, but this seems like such a harsh punishment. It's not punishment. It's consequences. You chose to lie to me for months. You chose to spend our money on another man. You chose to act single while expecting me to play the devoted husband. These are the natural results of those choices. What if I told you I was sorry? What if I promised to change? Sorry doesn't bring back $4,000. Sorry doesn't undo 2 months of lies. And change is something you demonstrate over time, not something you promise when you're facing consequences. She leaned against her car, looking defeated. So there's nothing I can do? You can learn from this. You can figure out why you thought lying and financial betrayal were acceptable. You can work on understanding the difference between genuine relationships and transactional ones. And then what? Then you become someone worthy of trust. But that's not something you do to save this marriage. That's something you do to save yourself. You really meant it when you said this was over? I meant it when I said actions have consequences. You spent 8 months of marriage acting like you were single and funding another man's lifestyle. What did you think was going to happen? She got in her car and rolled down the window. What if Brandon had been genuine? What if he really had cared about me? Then he would have respected your marriage instead of accepting money from it. He would have encouraged you to be honest with your husband instead of helping you lie. He would have wanted to meet me instead of hiding from me. And if he calls me now? He won't. But if he does, ask yourself why he waited until after your money problems became his money problems. She started her car, then looked at me one more time. Do you think I'm a terrible person? I think you're someone who made terrible choices. Whether that makes you a terrible person depends on what you do next. She drove away without saying goodbye. 6 months later, I ran into Jessica at the grocery store. She told me my ex-wife had moved to Arizona to start fresh. Apparently, she tried to reconnect with Brandon one more time before leaving town, but he'd blocked her number. She kept asking why no one would give her a second chance. Jessica said, I told her second chances are earned, not demanded. How's she doing now? Last I heard, she was dating someone new. Some guy who owns a restaurant. Let me guess. She's helping him with his business expenses. Jessica looked surprised. How did you know? Some people learn from their mistakes. Others just find new ways to repeat them. I finished my shopping and drove home to the house that felt peaceful again. No mysterious charges on credit cards. No lies about working late. No drama about tracking apps or demands for freedom. It turned out the freedom I needed wasn't the freedom to track my wife's movements. It was the freedom from someone who thought marriage was a safety net that allowed her to take risks with other people's money and emotions. My ex-wife got exactly what she asked for. She became a free woman, free to make her own choices and live with her own consequences. She was free to find someone else willing to fund her lifestyle while she searched for appreciation from strangers. She was free to discover that freedom without responsibility is just another word for loneliness. And I was free to find someone who understood that marriage is a partnership, not a financial arrangement with benefits. Someone who wouldn't mistake my trust for weakness or my support for an unlimited expense account. 6 months after she left, I had rebuilt our savings, reconnected with friends I'd neglected while trying to figure out why my wife was always mysteriously busy, and rediscovered what it felt like to come home to honesty instead of drama. The storage unit was eventually emptied when she sent movers to collect her belongings. I never heard from her directly again. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is give them exactly what they ask for. She wanted to be a free woman, and I helped her achieve that goal more completely than she'd planned. Freedom, it turns out, works both ways.
국밥에 제육볶음 이거 시키자. 그래, 제육볶음에 국밥 시킬게. 좀 가격이 비싸긴 한데, 돼지국밥에 제육볶음 시키겠습니다. 예. 야무지게 먹어야죠. 그래도 야무지게 먹어야 또 방송하는 거니까. 항상 말하죠. 야무지게 먹어야 돼. 야무지게. 야, 얘들은 뭐냐? 어디 갔냐? 보이시나요? 아이씨, 화면이 어두워서 잘 안 보이나? 까마귀 밥 먹는 거 좀 보고 있으세요? 예. 아, 까마귀란다. 비둘기. 밥 좀 시키겠습니다. 밥 시켰어요. 그때 우리 그때 존나 야무지게 먹네. 와, 근데 이게 햇빛에 원래 핸드폰 안 보이는 게 정상이죠. 예. 햇빛 쐬니까 햇빛 비추니까 핸드폰이 잘 안 보이네. 채팅창이. 이거 뭐예요 이거? 빵이야 이거 뭐야? 스펀지 같은데 아닌가? 빵인가? 생긴 거 비주얼은 거의 뭐 스펀지인데 급이. 근데 존나 좀 비둘기 많이 모여있으니까 좀 혐오스러워요. 극혐이에요. 비둘기 존나 많이 모여있으니까 혐오스러워. 혐오적이야.